this year's Halloween cosplay, I made Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I did it. So the first thing I made are arm socks and stockings because I didn't want to do full body painting. For these, the materials I used are red Dymore synthetic dye in the colors sapphire blue, peacock green, and tropical teal. I also used an old pen and spoon. Keep in mind you can't use them anymore for food after this. Gloves to protect your hands. A measuring cup. A sewing machine and also needle and thread. Contact glue. Fabric scissors. A makeup palette with blues in it. And fabric ink or any kind of fabric paint. And of course also 2 pairs of white tights. So now I got all my materials. I'm starting out by mixing the dye. The Red Dye website has a sea of colors with color formulas on it, so if you need a specific color you can just look it up and find out which dyes you need to mix. I must say, it is a little bit tricky though, so I recommend trying it out a few times on scrap fabric. I didn't do this and you will see and learn the hard way. To dye the fabric, you need to have your water close to boiling. Also, you need to wet the fabric before you put it in the dye. As you can see, one pair took the dye really well and others not at all. So I messed it up. But it's a learning process, so I ordered new ties, soaked the ties for longer, and I also used less dye, and the second time I got a really nice light blue. To sew the arm socks, you can insert a cardboard cutout of your hand to sew around it, but I found it easier to just stitch around my hand. I stitched it by hand first, and then I took my sewing machine and went over it with a zigzag stitch. Cut off the excess in between the fingers, and you've got yourself an arm sock. After you could turn it inside out, of course. To finish the arm socks, some nails are needed. I painted some fake nails and glued them on with contact glue. I used contact glue because it doesn't soak through and glues everything to my hand. Now the nails are on, we aren't really finished yet. You can stop here, but I felt like they looked a little bit flat to me and they needed some dimension. And that's where the makeup palette comes in. I added some shadows with 3 colors of powder. A light blue, a medium blue, and a dark blue. I just went over all the spaces where normal shadows would be. So in hand palm, the wrinkles in your hands, the creases, where your joints bend. Just look at your hands, see where the shadows are, and just contour the shit out of it. Of course, Sally isn't complete with her stitches, so I drew them on fabric paint. And of course, let it dry before you take it off, otherwise you will mess it up. I did the same to the legs, and now I successfully avoided body paint. Onto the dress. For the dress I used a bunch of fabric scraps and cotton for the underdress. I also used my sewing machine, fabric scissors, and a big needle for the yarn. For the details I used both black and white yarn and a bunch of buttons. For the pattern I used fabric paints. I first made a sketch so I had a clear reference. I made an underdress out of the cotton and used an existing dress as a pattern. I later took it in a little bit on the dress form. I sketched out all the panels on this dress, and then later I traced them to the different fabrics for the panels. I used a lot of different textures. In the concept art for Sally, Tim Burton wrote down that he wanted to look like she made the dress herself out of scraps of materials that she found. So by using different textures, I really wanted to give it that feel. Before I sew everything together, I'm adding the patterns. You can paint these on by hand, but with big panels like this, I like to screen print them. It saves time and makes it more neat, especially for repeating patterns. I will make a screen printing video in the future. Explaining everything would make this video way too long. I used screen printing ink for this, and I diluted it a little bit with water. Doing this, the print will not be too perfect and crisp, and bleed a little bit in the corners. I really wanted the print to match the overall rugged look of the dress. For the sleeve I used the same ink and just painted the stripes on. For this panel I used a fabric marker because it's really hard to print on this really thick and tough, very textured fabric. For the big dots I cut out fabric circles and sewed them on. I also sewed on the patches, and instead of painting on dots I replaced them with buttons for extra detail. I used white yarn for this. And later, I found the patch really ugly, so I made a new one. So, here's the other one. I also replaced the dots with buttons on the big panel. I just sewed everything together like you would with normal seams and stuff, so I didn't really film that. After I did that, it was time to add all the stitches by hand. I used a black yarn for this and a big ass needle. Also, this takes a while. Might hurt your hands a bit, but it looks really nice and way better than painted on stitches. After I finished all the stitches, I did some weathering. I roughed up all the edges on the fabric to make the dress look old and worn. I don't really have a specific method for this, I just cut randomly. I scraped the edges with my nails, and I used a little bit of sandpaper also. As a finishing touch, I did some dry brushing with dark brown paint. I went along all the seams. I also dunked the dress in a tea bath, but I forgot to film it. But after I did that and the dress dried, it was finally finished. Has some shady, my camera died so I had to use my phone that isn't great at artificial lighting videos. I will make a separate video showing you how I do the makeup and everything and the complete costume, but until then I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe, of course. Go follow my Instagram if you want to see cosplay updates in between videos. Stay safe. See you next time.